and welcome to our Play Well podcast series. My name is Marguerite Hunter-Blair and I am Chief Executive of Play Scotland, the national organisation for play. Today we will be talking about play for deaf children with Faith Robyn. Faith is the Bright Start Development Manager at the National Deaf Children's Society, working to support deaf children, their families and their practitioners in the early years. As a deaf adult, Faith has also worked in the early years sector for 18 years, managing Ofsted Outstanding settings and coordinating and delivering local authority training for early years providers. Here is our Learning and Development Officer, Jenny Lester, catching up with Faith Robyn.
Hi Faith, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. It'd be great if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what play means to you.
Sure, thank you. So I'm Faith. I am the Bright Start Development Manager at the National Deaf Children's Society. So I kind of lead and manage on all the early years work, supporting families who have just found out their child is deaf in that kind of 0 to 5 age range, supporting practitioners too in early years settings. And for me, I would say what play means to me, you can't underestimate the power of the early years. And you can't underestimate the power of play. So play is power to the brain. We know that first 1,001 days is like the most amazing time in development where we've got 1 million brain connections a second firing in that child's brain. And the vehicle that they use to explore all of these connections, all of this learning is play. Play is definitely power to the brain. And for me, play means interaction and it means relationships. And I think we can all testify to the fact that the last couple of years has really kind of shone a light on how important interaction and relationships are. And for deaf children especially, play makes that opportunity really rich and special, that we can play and interact and learn from each other and also learn about ourselves, and really build that sense of identity. All of that comes from being able to have a go, test what we know, practice, demonstrate that mastery of the skill. When children repeat, it's because they're mastering a skill because something amazing is happening in their brain. So the next time that child comes to you and wants you to read that story for the 100th time, be excited to know that something's going on in that mastery of a skill, and you're supporting that through a playful interaction and relationship. And also I think play really means universal, kind of inclusive time where children can come together and be celebrated for who they are, for themselves, but also with peers and with each other. It's a very inclusive and foundational thing that we use as a basis for all future learning. Can't underestimate play, it's amazing.
What a wonderful answer. Thank you so much. So the next question I kind of wanted to ask you was, I know you said play is a really good opportunity to include deaf children, but I think we all know that there are some misconceptions around deaf children and play. So could you tell us a little bit about those misconceptions?
Yeah, sure. So I think, a common misconception is that deafness is a learning disability. I think it would be fair to say that people would bring the two together, but it absolutely isn't. Deafness on its own is not a learning disability. So when you're in your setting or in your school and you have that deaf child in your group, it's really, really important to understand that their ability to learn, take in information, play, it is exactly the same as their hearing peers. They are completely capable of the same play opportunity that's presented to them. It really is about access. We can't change the nature of deafness, but we can change the environment and the access, which means that child can then explore everything that their hearing peers can. So misconception number one, deafness is not a learning disability. Another misconception, I think, is that people think that deaf children maybe don't want to play, or they're quite happy playing on their own over there. Maybe that's the way they like to play. when we're thinking about children in a group or in a setting or, at school when they're playing or when they're doing anything, is that they can often be kind of missing in action. Those children that are just really quiet, they get on, they're not really causing any kind of concern, they're just missing in action on the periphery. And it may well be that those deaf children are there missing in action because they can't access the play situation. It's not that they don't want to, they would love to, they're totally capable of it, but the environment doesn't give them the access that they need. So deaf children can and do want to play. We know that as deaf children get older and into their teens, they can feel isolated, and well-being and emotional well-being can be an issue for them. So if we can get this right in the early years, we can build friendships, relationships through play, then we're hoping that well-being through adulthood is safeguarded and protected because they know how to play, interact and enjoy being with other people. I think a common misconception is that hearing aids are like glasses and that they fix hearing loss, like glasses fix sight, but they don't. So hearing aids will only amplify what you have left. The hearing that you have is amplified, so it doesn't fill in the gap of what you can't hear. So hearing aids are amazing, and audiologists can do amazing things with them, but a child who's wearing hearing aids, you maybe think, oh, it's okay, they can hear. I can call them from across the room. I can speak to them from a different room. They've got the hearing aids in. But it really isn't the case. It will amplify what they have, and it works best within like a 2-meter radius. You go outside of that, you're outside on a busy road, their hearing level is not going to be the same for them. Just because they've got the hearing aids in doesn't mean they're fully ready and able to access everything in the same way. And also, I think people think you need something special, some special toy, some special thing that will fix this situation. And it isn't like that. Of course, there are things that are more sensory, or they've got flashing lights, or they've got some vibration that might engage a deaf child more. But like I said, they're totally capable of enjoying play with other children in the same way. So it wasn't anything specific that you can give them, except just think about the environment, think about access, really.
Again, just a wonderful answer. That's so many different misconceptions that I think we all might be guilty of holding, like small parts of them or some more so. You talked a lot there about access. So I was wondering if we could talk a little bit more about the barriers that exist in supporting deaf children to play.
There are barriers, and it's about overcoming them. We can do this. Absolutely, we can do this. So if you think about the environment, just simple things like, especially in schools and settings, even at home, there's a trendy thing right now to have lots of open plan environments with high ceilings. And I worked in a nursery for quite a long time. It was a fantastic nursery, but the ceiling was so high that the reverberation of sound in the room and the echo was so overwhelming that by the time I got home, I couldn't wait to take my hearing aids out. So it's really about thinking, do we need a carpeted area? Do we need more soft furnishings? Can we have curtains? Can we have some cushions? Can we create some little kind of hidey hole spaces for children to go to play that's a little bit more protected around the sound? It's not bouncing off so many walls. Think about lighting. A barrier to play can be, lighting. If you're trying to read a story to a group of children and the light's really shining on your face, it will be harder for them to see your lip patterns and your body language, facial expression. So think about where you're sitting and positioned, and is the light kind of coming at you or shining directly behind you is not very helpful. So simple practical things, removing barriers around the environment would be those. Another barrier to play, when you think about when children play, they're so fast, aren't they? The speed at which they play is really quite fast. So, for example, you're in the playground, or you're, in the outdoor space, you're in the garden, and you're underneath a climbing frame, and the climbing frame is a spaceship, and you're counting down, and you're going to go to Mars, and it's all really exciting. And then that collaborative play opportunity changes because another child says, oh, actually, last week I took my dog to the vet. Let's make this a vet. So then the spaceship becomes a vet. But for that deaf child who doesn't pick up on conversation happening around them that's not directed at them necessarily, they've missed that cue. So for them, the climbing frame is still a spaceship. And then, we're a bit confused. I'm not really sure what's happening. I think I'll just retreat. I'll withdraw. I'll go and play on my own. So it's about the adult being able to come alongside and say, wow, Johnny's just turned it's not a spaceship anymore. Johnny's just turned it into a vet. And now we're going to go and we've got a missing dog in the playground. Come on, let's go find him. So it's not coming alongside that child and being very literal and saying, right, okay, so what's just happened is, what you've just missed is, it's really rephrasing, recapturing that play and then passing it back to that child. That's the access that they need then to say, thanks very much, know what I'm doing now, and off we go again. So it really takes responsive adults who understand what's happening, are aware, engaged, involved with that child and kind of really understanding their needs. When we're thinking about hearing aids, like I've said about how they amplify the sound that you have left, they also amplify all the sound. So it can be so tiring and overwhelming for children. I think a real barrier to their play is tiredness. If you think about how much more energy it takes to really soak up every single part of communication. So you're looking at face, you're looking at the mouth, you're looking at eyebrows, you're looking at body language, you're picking up sound, you're piecing it all together. Plus, you've got amplification of all the other children playing, traffic outside. By the time you get to the end of the day for a child, it can actually be quite exhausting. So you might find in your day that a deaf child really dips at certain times. It might be they withdraw. It might be that they throw their hearing aids across the room, their cochlear implant across the room. It might be that, they're a bit short-tempered. But it's about seeing past that behaviour and wondering, I wonder what might be happening a little bit deeper down. So I think tiredness, it can be a real barrier. And one other thing around empathy. For deaf children, sometimes it takes longer, a little bit longer, for them to really get to grips with emotions and feelings, understanding how somebody else might be feeling. And for a hearing child who's kind of, developing those skills really quite quickly, to be playing alongside a child who hasn't quite got there sometimes causes a little bit of friction. So a barrier might be around being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes when you're playing and understanding how other people are feeling. So it's a skill that everyone has to learn, and we learn it all at different speeds. But really being able to overcome that barrier through playful opportunities will be really important for deaf children.
Fantastic. Well, that was really great. And I think you covered a lot of barriers there and also some tips to how to overcome them. But I did want to ask you if you had top tips to overcome these barriers and to support play in deaf children that you haven't already mentioned, some top tips for anyone listening. Yeah.
So, I think getting to know the child, getting to know the deaf child, whether it's, even if it's, your own deaf child, we all have to get to know our children, don't we? Find out more about them, what excites them, what interests them, really understanding the child, putting them at the centre. What is it that they need? What is it that really kind of helps them to engage? What do they like doing? If we're always taking children away from what they want to do to get them to do something else, they kind of get really put off. So it's about connecting with them on a real kind of personal level. What do they need? What is their personality? What do they like? Another tip would be like deaf awareness for everyone, especially if you're in a school or a setting. It's not just about one person being deaf aware. It's about everybody being deaf aware, including the children. So really simple things like, do the children know that they just need to wave or tap that deaf child before we start speaking, or before, we want to communicate with them? We need to get their attention. Otherwise, they're not going to know that we're even speaking. So it's that deaf awareness in, what works best for this child? Ask the family, what's the best thing that we can do? What do you do at home to really kind of capture their attention before you want to communicate? I think as well, it's about little things like seating. So if you're having a group time or a circle time, how are you all sitting? If you're all sitting in a line, then that deaf child can't see anybody's face. So making sure that we're in a horseshoe shape so that there's that visual cue that you can really see each other, see expression, making things as visual as possible. If you're reading a story, have a story sack. Have a great big bag of tricks. Have all your visuals that come out of the bag and bring that story to life. The same with a song bag, but really remembering that deaf children need time to look at the picture, look at the book, look at your face, work out what you're saying, look at the prop or the visual back at the book. So it's an approach that's got lots of different parts to it. And that child needs time to look at each one and bring them together and connect them. So making things as visual as possible, but giving children time and lots of play opportunities in role play. Let's get children really exploring and expressing themselves and practicing day-to-day things like going to the shop, practicing going to the park. The things that are really important to them are the things that they're going to want to play, especially in a role play situation. And they need lots of opportunity to be able to explore that and have a go at talking to other people, building relationships, and really playing very practically in things that are meaningful to them. I think there are some things we can do around the barrier of empathy and, really needing to understand more about feelings, is that we need to give children lots of opportunity to explore how they feel, to talk about how they feel. And for us as adults, to talk about how we feel. If we can demonstrate resilience in their emotions rather than being kind of completely okay and everything's all right all the time. And it's good for children to be able to see that actually this is difficult for me, but I overcame it. Now I'm all right again. And then they learn by copying, by watching. So really giving children opportunities to look at books that have stories about emotions, about how people feel, that role play again, and practicing putting ourselves in the shoes of someone else. I wonder how it would feel if. And probably one of the most important things we can do around play and barriers around play are to give children deaf characters, deaf representation in their play. We all want to connect, don't we, on some level around, who we are. And it's important that we see ourselves represented in our community to feel connected and to feel safe. So when we're playing, let's make sure that we have deaf representation. Have we got stories, deaf characters? Have we got teddy bears that have got their hearing aids in today? Really simple things. Have we got photographs? Have we got, social stories in our book corner about the children in our setting going and doing things together? Is that deaf child represented there? It makes such a massive difference to how we feel about ourselves, our identity as a person, as a deaf person, when we can see other deaf people in our environment. It's about confidence, resilience, and that secure identity to move on and explore in new ways, really, all come through play.
That is really fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've learned so much and I really hope everyone else enjoys it too. But really I love the passion you have for play, and you had such good advice, such practical advice there. So that was really fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred app and join the conversation by using the hashtag PlayWellPodcast. And find out more about Play Scotland, follow us on Twitter @PlayScotland and visit our website playscotland.org.